Good morning, everyone. How we doing? This morning? Move my stuff around here. How is life treating everybody? So we got 7 people. Hopefully you're all doing well. Hopefully you can hear me and the stream's coming through. I've been having some internet issues as of late, so I bet some of you have as well. So hopefully everybody's doing well. Just my camera there. So today, welcome to week 3. Can you believe it? This is week 3 of our conversion to online classes. And so this week we'll be talking about motivation, emotion, and a bit of sexuality. So that's some content, or the PowerPoint I want to talk to you about, some specific parts of it I want to make sure I explain very well to you. I know you guys can read the PowerPoints, and I'm not going to bore you with that. But I thought I would explain some key components of this week's content and answer any kind of questions you have. It must feel good to you this morning. I'm going to go to our course homepage here. I just go to this sec. They all look the same. So it doesn't matter if you're in Northview, Sevier County, or Seymour, you're going to see the same thing. But I put a post up for you this morning, welcoming you to the week. And I started out by you did it. The paper's over. That should feel very good to those of you watching live, and those of you watching after this has been put up on YouTube so you can watch it asynchronously. But you're done. The paper's over with. So naturally, I know the question may be, all right, Terry, done my part. Graded the paper. So when are you going to get it graded? I've submitted it. So when are you going to grade it? It's going to take me at least a week. If you think about it, between the 3 classes, I have, 4 classes. I had another online class turn in a book report Sunday night. So I have 4 classes. So if you did the average of 25 students per class, that'd be a little over 100 papers I have to grade. So it takes me a while to plug away through those papers. My goal is to have it done before next Monday. So be looking for that. You'll see feedback show up in your Dropbox and your gradebook. You'll see a score, and if you click on that score, you should be able to see the kind of qualitative feedback, what I've written to you about how your paper can be better. So you should feel good. You got the exam behind you, and I looked over the exam scores this morning. You know, the grade distribution is pretty normal, pretty much comparable to exam 1. I mean, if anything, you guys did slightly better, or actually you did better, not slightly, better than exam 1 that we took on ground. And I just want to let you know, I purposely made this first online exam a bit easy. Now that you're acclimated and you're used to it, the next one will be a bit harder. I'm not trying to scare you, but it'll just be a bit more difficult because now you're used to it, and now I can throw some bigger questions at you. But we'll do the same thing before the next exam. We'll have a review session. I noticed something, by the way, for those of you who are watching this, maybe not live. I looked back at my chat log in YouTube at who attended the Kahoot review and who's been attending my live streams. And there was a pretty interesting correlation between scores of those people who attended and those people who didn't. I'll just leave it at that. People that attended did better. So if you've emailed me, I didn't do as well on the test, what can I do? Start by maybe watching this or coming to live streams, participating as many others have in the past. That would be my humble suggestion to you going forward. But anyways, hopefully you feel better. You got that off your shoulders. Now we can kind of get into this week's content. This week has 2 chapters, guys. 2 chapters. So that means a lot of reading this week, but not a lot of assessment. You just have 2 assessments. You have a discussion board and you have a reading quiz. It's no big deal. You can knock those out. I have a lot of stuff for you, though, in the module. So if we go over to the module, course information, content, scroll down to the left and look at this week's module, March 30th through April 5th. You'll see this module covers motivation, emotion, and sexuality. That's 2 chapters. click there, bam, it'll pull up your list of tasks to do. And here's your list of tasks. You're going to review this motivation, emotion PowerPoint, the sexuality PowerPoint. I have an emotions, pretty cool emotions video. I'm not going to have time today to talk about the models of emotion, but that video does a great job at like showing you in a sports, on a soccer field. Like, if you ever watch parents on a soccer field, like their emotional reactions, or any sporting event, parents' emotional reactions are pretty crazy. That video kind of shows you the models, like Schachter's model and others' model of emotion on the field of athletics. So it's a really good, I think, film to kind of showcase that. Then you have a recording of this right here, motivation lecture. Then you have the Kinsey Institute for Sex. This is a great frequently asked questions page of like facts, scientific facts based on sex. I mean, everything you want to know. Average length of intercourse, percentages of orientation, size of anatomy that interests you, that's there. All science, evidence-based data, so driven data, so go take a look at it. Then there's a video here over the evolutionary approach to eating, and you're going to need to watch that to participate in the discussion board since it asks directly about that. And then lastly, you got a reading quiz. So that's it. Kind of roll through these things for the week. You'll be done. It'll be good. As we approach your traditional spring break, I don't know how I'm going to handle that just yet. I'm still thinking about that. I might put a poll out, online about that, because I know that you guys are supposed to be off, but then you're locked down. So we'll tackle that. We'll talk about that a bit more next week. Anyways, all right. So having said all of that, I got my downloads here, and let's talk a bit about motivation. And I got 10 people. Cool, got 10 people. And I'm going to type in chat here. Hey, chat, ask any questions. Glad to have you. All right. So I'm going to load up this PowerPoint, and let's talk a bit about motivation and emotion. Doke. Let's go here, build it up. Hopefully that looks pretty good. Wait for that to show up on the screen. All right. The first thing we have to do is define motivation. I'll let you read the text. No big deal. But I want to point out a couple really important words that are going to help you understand the concepts in this chapter from this definition. Watch. Motivation is a process by which activities are started, directed, continued, and I'm going to add one that's not here, terminated. So let's take you for an example, and let's put you through this definition of why you're in this class with me. In fact, why the 10 of you got up this morning, because I know teenagers, even though it's 11, you want to sleep. You probably want to sleep as my teenager is upstairs sleeping right now. You want to sleep beyond this time, right? I need to wake him up probably. Anyways, what motivated you to get up this morning and join me in YouTube? Well, let's look at the definition. The way you start, direct, continue, and I'll add one again, stop. So I'll throw it in chat. What motivated you guys to start this process? I don't mean get up this morning necessarily. I mean, let's go back to the very beginning. Why take this class with me? Was it because your parents urged you to do so? Was it because your school counselor urged you to do so? Did you hear word of mouth like, hey, this Terry guy's not so bad, maybe take him for this class. It'll be a good transition between high school and college. What started your journey here? Throw it in chat. I like to, and then I'll continue defining. And then you got to think about kind of what directs you at your goals. Why do you start at a goal? What directs you at that goal? Is that direction some kind of incentive? Is it some type of personal fulfillment you have? What's the direction? What are you directed at? What's the target, if you will? how do you continue the behavior of taking this class, going to class, meeting people, coming online, turning in assignments? What sustains you? In a college setting, we have a measure for that, actually. It's called retention. Um, we're in the spring right now, and I would tell you guys that, I have an advising load. Like, I'll be advising some students tomorrow virtually, which is crazy. Excuse me. I get a load of students in the fall, and I have to advise them to get ready for the spring. And then I get that same group of students back in the spring, right? Wrong. I get a significant percentage smaller back in the spring. Yeah, and the reason for that is the retention, how they continue towards the goals, it drops off. Coming back to chat, thank you, Salima, Tiffany, Austin. You found it interesting? Very cool. I'm glad so that's kind of like, Salima, that's like personal fulfillment, it seems like, why you started this. It was free and my dad told me it would be fun. Cool. So there's some external incentive there in yours, Tiffany, where, what's directing you to do this? What started you to do this? Well, maybe that there's no cost. Austin, it's the only science dual enrollment class my school offers, so I took it. Hey, Austin, that makes me feel really good. Thank you for saying that. It is. It's a social science, but it is a science class nonetheless. I'm glad you love science. Awesome. That's awesome that you want to focus on that. So again, you guys started these for a variety of reasons. And then as I read, Eric said, not going to lie, I took this for a speech class, so I have to do it in college. Hey, yeah, tell Alyssa the check's in the mail, Eric. She was a really good student, and I liked her a lot. Word of mouth, maybe. My major is psychology, Savannah. Awesome. I knew that. I remember that. And, so these things kind of start you guys down this path, right? But then you got to think about the target of what you're doing and what sustains you and how you continue. Going back to that example I mentioned before, there's a reason why I start with a whole bunch of advisees in the fall and then they drop in the spring. Because we see, a percentage of students just quit between their fall and spring semester. And that causes us to ask this question, what motivational factors are causing them not to continue, causing the retention to drop? And then let's deep dive a bit and break this apart before we go into any models of this. So this motivational definition we're looking at, guys, it's like a big definition, right? But we're not talking about a specific model yet. But before we dive into models, let's define two types. And this is extremely important. I will test question you on this. Write it down, highlight it, do something. I will throw questions at you on the next exam about the differences between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. So extrinsic means just that. I heard some of that extrinsic in some of your statements. Let's think about this. A person performs an action, they start something, and it leads to an outcome because it's external of them. So I'm going to go back to Salima's, and I don't find her statement to be extrinsic. I find it to be intrinsic, because she said, I found psychology interesting and already took sociology. That sounds like it came from the inside. So she started this action because it's something that's satisfying to her internally. As I look at Tiffany's, and again, I'm not saying this is good or bad, Tiffany. Don't come to the camera and grab me. You say it's because it's free. That's external, extrinsic motivation. That is the money associated with it, the external of you, kind of motivated you maybe to want to take the class. Austin says science. He loves science. That sounds more intrinsic to me. Eric said, not going to lie, I took this because I wouldn't have to do it in college. My sister had a bubbly recommendation. It sounds a bit extrinsic to me, like there were external factors that motivated you to move towards taking this class. Savannah says hey, psych, I'm a psych major. That sounds very much intrinsic. Guys, if you think about it, whether it's taking this class, whether it's going to work, whether it's maintaining a relationship, you have to think about the kind of motivation that fuels you to start something, incentivize or direct it at a goal, and how you continue it, and then eventually why you stop it. And really you can break those things down into either extrinsic or intrinsic motivation. This is a public service announcement, and this is a moment where I beg you for a second. As you guys continue throughout your life, you're still very young. You're in your late adolescence. You're approaching early adulthood. As you decide what you want to do for the rest of your life in terms of a career, as you decide who you want to spend your life with in terms of a relationship, as you decide what kind of debt you want to take on, your goals, what your hobbies, what you do for fun, what you do to relax, I would want you guys to always think about these two types of motivation. Because, and here's my argument to you. Honestly, you should, when at all possible, you should be trying to start, direct, continue behaviors, that's motivation, using intrinsic factors, if at all possible. If at all possible. A quick story about this, and then we'll move on. I'll just tell you guys a story. So I started my PhD program at Texas A&M with 15, well, they're 15 total, 14, with 14 other brilliant people, okay? And of those 14 other people, 15 of us total, I want you guys to take a guess at how many of us graduated. Just throw it in chat. Give me a number. As I wait for your response, I'll tell you guys, I definitely wasn't the smartest in that group of 15 people. I know I wasn't. 5, not a bad guess. There are a lot of smart people in that group of 15. We differed in our motivation, and I could tell early on in the process how we differed. You're all close, but you're wrong. It was 3. There were 3 of us out of 15 that finished. And I'm convinced that all these other people were smarter than me, right? So as I look back at it, what sustained, why did we start this? What directed us to want to achieve this degree? What sustained us or didn't sustain some people? And then how did we eventually stop? Let me break it down. So what did I say day one to all of you guys about the way you address me? What did I ask you to call me? Did I demand that you call me doctor? No, I didn't. Because you see, I didn't achieve a PhD to be called by some title. That's an extrinsically motivating factor. If I need you to validate me in my accomplishment, then that clearly is an extrinsic motivation. I don't need that. I pursued the degree because I wanted it for me. Not so that you could call me something. And I'll tell you guys, of that group of people, I remember the first time I sat down with them, and many of them said, I can't wait to be called doctor. I can't wait to be this person in my, achieve this particular status in my organization, in my institution. And I remember thinking back on that day, like, that's probably not the best reason to start a doctoral program. Okay. Then I think back to like money. A lot of them were like, I'm going to get a big raise when I finish. And my raise, I would not even want to tell you what my raise was at Walter State. It's embarrassing. And I love Walter State, but that's not why. Money wasn't the reason it fueled me. That would be another extrinsic factor. The 3 of us that finished, as I look back to the 3 of us, myself, I still remember them, Sarah and Devin, the 3 of us both had really compelling stories as to why we wanted to finish our degree. And largely it was because we wanted to give back to others. Mine was something along this line. I came from a first-generation college family. None of my parents graduated from college. I wanted to be the first one to graduate so that I could teach at a community college and I could work with populations like me that came from similar backgrounds, where I could relate to them, where I could connect to them, where I felt like that they knew I came from where they are. And I felt like that would make me a better teacher, right? That fueled me. I wanted it for my kids. I wanted to set an example for my kids. I wanted to set an example for my wife. I wanted it from the inside of my of my accomplishment to know I met this challenge. And in the hardest parts of that degree, when I thought I would never finish, I thought it was all over, and I thought I was going to fail, and all these things, what was it that kept sustaining me, continuing? It was those intrinsic factors. So I say to you guys, when you think about your career choice, you think about your relationships, try to lean towards intrinsic motivation, because whenever someone turns the spigot off, okay, money, they turn it off. Title, they turn it off. They stop validating you. Guess what happens to the behavior? You stop doing it. You stop doing it. What about exercise, nutrition, eating? Part of the chapter is about that. Can you guys not see that here? If people always want to look a certain way, so they look at Instagram models, they want to look this way, they have a ripped six-pack abs. Look, if that's all you're chasing, then your behaviors when it comes to eating and exercise, this can be hard to sustain that all the time. But if it's because you want to feel good on the inside, or you want to achieve some intrinsic goal because you find it fun or challenging. My birthday every year, I do some stupid workout challenge, only because it's fun. It's challenging. All right, sorry, off the soapbox. Now that we kind of defined it, we've broken down extrinsic, intrinsic. Let's look at models. Now, you guys might remember that we talked about this before, but models in any science just kind of show us the way we think things work when we can't directly observe them. The models of motivation, there's a couple of theories and models we're going to kind of look at. The first is called the drive reduction theory. And this model or theory says that the way we have motivation, the way we start something, the way we direct something, the way we sustain something, is all about internal, essentially, needs and drives. So let's define these. I want to show you the model itself, and we'll talk about it. So a need is a requirement of something for you to live, for you to survive, like food, water, sex. That's like basic physiological needs that we have as humans. Then drive is the kind of both physical, and psychological tension when there's a need that motivates you to act. So those two things sound kind of close together, right? They sound like, how do you separate them? Look at this. Think about this for a second. And this is very relevant right now, given a lot of us are isolating, socially distancing, staying at home. A lot of you are probably eating more cooked meals than you have in a long time, I'm guessing. And probably, when you have that cooked meal, let's go down to the bottom. The need, you need calories to sustain breathing, heart rate, right? Blood flow. You need a certain amount of calories every day. We call that your basal metabolic rate. You need that amount of calories every day just to live. And then that deficit of calories, just say you don't get enough calories throughout the day, what's the drive? What do you feel compelled to do? You feel hunger, right? That's the drive. You feel hunger. And then the hunger fuels what? Some type of behavioral response. But again, directed, remember? Directed at something. Why you start something, what you're directing it at, and then whether or not the behavior that follows it. Not all goals have the same incentive value. So you're at home, your parents make you this great meal, and it's very healthy. So just stay with me, hypothetically. They make you guys salmon, fresh grilled salmon. They make you some carrots and some lentils, right? So you have this great healthy meal. You eat all of it. You satisfy your need. You no longer feel hungry. And so your behavioral response to eat again is low. So let's say your parents walk out after you eat that full meal and they say, you know what? I've made you guys some carrots that have been boiled, and I put some cinnamon and honey on top of the carrots. Now, to me, I really love that. I would probably still eat it. A lot of you guys, you saw that and you're like, I'm full. You don't have the same behavioral response. You're like, I'm full. I'm not hungry. No. Your parents walk by. I don't know. What's your favorite like go-to ice cream here in Sevier County? Like, let me tell you what it used to be for me. They no longer sell them, which is probably good for my health. The Zaxby's Party Cake Shake. Rip, rest in peace, Party Cake Shake. I love that shake. It was so good. It was like birthday cake mix into a shake. Oh, I would like if I were completely full and I drove by Zaxby's, I would still pull over to Zaxby's and buy one of those shakes. Even if I were completely full, my behavioral response will be one that I don't have a need. I don't need calories. I don't feel hungry, my drive. But my behavioral response, because the incentive value is so high, I go and buy that Zaxby's Party Cake Shake. And I have to tell you guys, like right now, since I haven't eaten at a fast food restaurant in 2 weeks, over 2 weeks, nothing. And part of me's been like, maybe a Sonic, hot fudge sundae would be good right about now. I still haven't done it. I haven't gone out to eat, but I wonder at what point my behavioral response is going to lead me to get in the car and drive and buy something because the incentive value is so high. So does that model make sense to you guys? You have let's go back. Drive reduction theory says that you have these physiological needs that cause internal drives to push you to satisfy those needs. Again, those internal needs are calories, drives are hunger, and the response would be going to get the food, and not all food has the same incentive value. Savannah says, oh, she says Terry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm a little late on that, Savannah. So you have different drives. You have some drives that are tied to what I said before, food, water, sex. But then you have drives that you acquire, what we call secondary drives, through learning, like, I don't know, something we were talking about earlier, the need for money or social approval. You were not born into this world being motivated to acquire money. You learned to be motivated by money by observing other people around you, or being by conditioned. Like a lot of you, I've seen this, you say this before. Like, how many of you guys would get money for good grades when you were in younger grade levels? Like, you started to have secondary drives for learning that was tied to money. Like, your parents would give you so many dollars if you did well on a report card. Some of you may still be getting that secondary drive today. Like, maybe your parents pay for your cell phone bill, or they help you pay for car insurance if you maintain certain jobs. All you got was a good job, Salima. Well, that means, that's actually not a bad thing, Salima, because, can you see where that could be a danger? Where people start learning to value, let's say, education because of money and not just because of the knowledge you acquire? That could be a big problem, right? If you start having too many secondary drives. Homeostasis is just, your body's trying to maintain a steady state. That's back to, let's say, basal metabolic rate. Your basal metabolic rate, mine is about 2,300, 2,400 calories. That's how many calories I need every day for my body to maintain a steady state in terms of my weight. If I drop below that, I feel really hungry. If I go above that, I gain weight. Let's talk about a different model or approach to motivation. We looked at the model dealing with needs. Let's look at a different kind of need, not physical, not biological. This is psychological. McClellan's model or theory says that the way actually we are motivated to do things is through each other in terms of our psychological relationships with each other. So some people start, stop, sustain behavior based on the need for interactions and relationships with other people, the need for affiliation. Think about the way you guys are motivated to behave while you're in groups with other people. I see this at the high school level. Like, maybe some of you guys could speak to this in chat. There are social cliques in the high school. And if you if you are motivated to stay in that clique, in that social construct, you will adhere to the norms and interact with that group in a certain way. Maybe in a way that's not really reflective of your personality, but you'll still do it because you have that need for affiliation. You're motivated to act that way because of the group of people you're in. Another need McClellan said that we have, in terms of the way we are motivated, is to have control or influence over other people. Now, I don't want to get too political, and I don't want you guys to hate me, but think about this for a second. And this really goes with a lot of presidential candidates, but I think our current presidential candidate, this is a good example. I'm not saying he's good or bad. Leave that argument to the side. Let's just ask this simple question. Why would a billionaire want to become president? Any idea? I mean, if you're a billionaire, you have everything. You're rich, you have companies, you have a great family, you have more money than you can spend for the rest of your life. Why take on the burden of leading the United States? The need for power. And most politicians, that's the case, right? Most politicians not all, come from very affluent backgrounds. There's not a need for money there. There's a need for control or influence over other people. And so that need for power would explain the motivation, let's say, for why Donald Trump would want to become president. I mean, think about it. You see now, I feel bad, right, for a lot of our leaders. Our governor, our president, I mean, they are working really hard every day to try to keep us safe. And, that job, it's tough right now. They're having an influence over us, but man, it's very demanding. I would dare say those people are not sleeping very much at all right now. A lot of work. Need for achievement's the last one. McClellan argued that think about why some people take on really challenging tasks, like you didn't have to take on this class. You could have just taken a regular high school class, not how to write my horrible paper that you turned in last night, or take my test, or other good stuff I have you guys do. But why did you take this on? Maybe it's because you really want a challenging goal and you want a need for achievement. You want to be able to walk across the high school stage and say, I took a harder class. I took a college level class, and if nothing else, I knew I met the challenge. I knew I met my need for achievement. So again, that wouldn't be a physiological need like in the previous model, more of a psychological need. So can you guys see the contrast between these two? One physical, one psychological. Carol Dweck, who I'm going to tell you guys, if you want to watch a gifted speaker, watch some of Carol Dweck's TED Talks. She's maybe one of the biggest leaders in this whole idea of growth mindset. Growth mindset is a whole separate topic, but just kind of the mindset of like how you sustain challenges in your life. Do you have a growth mindset of, well, you stumble and you're like, hey, I can learn from this. I'll pick myself up. I'll move forward. Or are you the fixed mindset? You're like, I failed. I'm going to fail at everything. I suck. Yeah, really good talk, TED Talk. Definitely give that a watch. But she would argue that essentially that the need for achievement, again, psychological model of motivation, comes down to one's personality. And that some people's personality is a bit different than others. Some people have what she would call a fixed internal locus of control. Some people have an unstable external locus of control. And that's what motivates them. So another story. You guys ready for another story? College. I'm in college. Just got out of the Navy. And taking classes. And one of my best friends happens to be a girl. And I'll just leave her name as Girl A, because she may watch this YouTube video one day and I'll be in trouble. Girl A takes classes with me. We sign up for the same classes. We're good friends. But Girl A also goes out with me, dancing to the clubs, whatever else. And she was kind of my wing girl. I'm like, hey, I want to hit on that girl. I want to talk to that girl. She would be kind of, she would help me in that regard. So at the end of our first semester, tough first freshman term, right? I say to her, I think next semester I'm gonna be approaching class different, and I don't think I'm gonna be going out dancing as much. And she's like, "Why? We're having so much fun." I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to keep up. Next semester rolls around, we take the same classes again. So I remember this vividly, like week 3, we had an exam coming up. She's like, "Hey, let's go to the club tonight. Let's go dance." I'm like, "I can't. I've got to study for this history test." She's like, "Come on, Terry, come on, come go." I'm like, "No, I'm not gonna go." So I stayed home and studied. She went out and partied. I made an A. She failed the test. I made an A in the class. She dropped the class. I got my degree. She didn't. Now, all these years later, guys, we're still friends. And a number of years ago, we're talking, and she says to me, back to locus of control, she goes, "You're so lucky, Terry. You have such a good job. You're just one of those lucky people, like things just happen for you." And I was insulted by what she said, and I lashed out at her in anger. I'm like, "No, no, that's not true. I'm not lucky. You're discounting my locus of control." I didn't say that to her, but that's what I'm arguing. I'm like, I believe internally that I control my own destiny, if you will. If I put in the hard work, I have an internal locus of control stable, that the kind of motivation and work ethic I put in today is going to pay off tomorrow. Well, with her, it's about, well, some people are lucky and some people are not. Unstable, she's given externality. She's giving to the external world control over her life. And if you think about it, guys, Doek's right. Like motivation wise, can you see how she could be like zero motivated to do something? Whereas me, on the other hand, if I have an internal, a stable locus of control, I'm like, hold on. If I work hard today, it's going to pay off tomorrow. My internal locus of control is going to be stable, and I know I can control it. That's going to fuel different levels of motivation based on the psychology of the way and our personality and the way we think about the world. External, internal locus of control, stable, unstable, Carol Dweck. Really good theory or model. Some more approaches that look more to arousal and incentive about motivation. So think about this. Some people are motivated just because they're naturally curious to do something. So if it stimulates them to try something new, they will do it. It feels like it's unlearned, right? It appears to be unlearned, but it causes this increase in stimulation just out of curiosity. So for example, what motivates some of you to stop down and watch certain shows on YouTube, for example? Are you curious? What sustains you to watch all the way through? Like, let's say a science show. Some of you will not be stimulated. You will not be curious by that. Others, let's say, I'm just picking on Austin. He seems to be a big fan of science. Maybe a show comes on that talks about a field of science he's very interested in. He becomes curious. He feels a lot of stimulation as a result of that curiosity, and it motivates him to watch that show, whereas other people would not. Arousal theory is a bit different. It says that people are said to have like their best motivation because of levels of tension they seek to maintain by either increasing or decreasing that stimulation. And the best way to explain that is the Yerkes-Dodson's law. So let's think about this. You taking a high stakes math test. What your motivation level, your arousal level to do well, what would serve you best? Would it serve you best to have a super high arousal when doing something as difficult as taking a high stakes mathematics test? No, no. In fact, we have a term for that in psychology. We call that math anxiety. The more high level anxiety you have, the poorer you tend to do on tests. Now let's take something more simple. And I know I got some football players in here, so Jared, don't come through and try to kill me, but just hear me out for a second. If you're trying to move a man in football, right, and Jared plays offensive line, going to college to play offensive line, I'm not saying, please don't take this the wrong way, but moving a human being is a fairly simple task, right? To push a person off of a spot. It would motivate, it would be good for you to have a high level of arousal to complete that simple task. You watch a lot of football players, they will get themselves amped up, especially defensive linemen. I've noticed this about them. They'll trash talk and yell and say stuff and try to motivate themselves to push you off your spot to get to the quarterback, or vice versa, for blocking for a tight end. So having a high arousal level to like launch yourself forward is a good approach. Like workout moves, very similar. Like if you do a bench press, it's a lot of people will actually take an arousing, stimulating drug like caffeine, like pre-workout supplements. If you guys look at them, they got a lot of caffeine. Why? Caffeine's a stimulant. It's going to arouse the central nervous system. Maybe that person could push a higher weight because they're more highly aroused for this simple task. So remember that I'm going to throw this on a test question for you. High levels of arousal, simple task, low simple task. Low levels of arousal, high level complicated task. That's Yerkes-Dodson's law. Yeah. So some people, it comes to their incentive, they are sensation seekers. The more arousal, the better. Not everyone has the same arousal levels. You can see that in any amusement park. Some people will refuse to get on certain roller coasters. They're just like, my sensation seeking is at a certain level and yours is at another. Different incentive approaches or theories of motivation kind of help us understand that better in terms of arousal. If you think about the way behaviors are explained in terms of incentives, we were talking about food earlier, right? That not all incentives are created equal, and understanding how to balance incentive values and internal desire, that balance is important. So let's talk about that for a second. When it comes to eating, let's say dieting, would everyone agree with me that most people start diets largely because there's some internal push? Like deep down inside, they're like, I want to feel healthier, I want to feel better, I want to be more active, and I'm doing this for me. And then there might be a pull on the other side of, I want to look good in a bikini. I want to have six-pack abs. I want to push this weight. I want to do this, do that, some external factor. The idea is, when it comes to all these models and approaches, is that to have balance, not to let, and if you want to skew to one side versus the other, I would say skew internally, right? If you skew too much to the external side, you may not have the arousal level sufficient to sustain the behavior moving forward in the way. And that's why a lot of people quit diets, right? Makes perfect sense. Like if they put too much of a push, if they get too out of balance and put too much of a push on that external pull, well, then they lose the internal motivation to move forward, and the arousal is just not there. Let's take foods, for example. So people make this horrible mistake. You ready with dieting? They eat the same stuff every day. Like that's a horrible approach. You're going to get tired of it. The arousal level that you get from eating that food is going to lower every day. So what you need to do is instead meal prep. Like prepare lots of different arousing foods Sunday, package them up so that you can eat them throughout the week. Because what's the excuse we always give ourselves throughout the week? Don't have enough time. Don't have time to cook this food. Cook a variety of foods. Put them in the freezer, put them in the refrigerator where you can get them out, and easily heat them up, warm them up, and have a variety of foods. You can't eat salmon every day, although I'd love to try. You can't eat tuna every day. You can't eat salads every day. That's the thing I often hear people say. The arousal level is going to go down. The sustained behavior is going to go down. You're going to fall off the diet. All right. Another model. What we talked a bit about first, biological, physiological, calories, needs, drives. Then we kind of shifted, talked about psychological, and we looked at Carol Dweck's models and things like that. Now let's look at a humanistic approach to motivation. A lot of people say this is the too good to be true model. I'll let you guys judge for yourself. Maybe you've heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maybe you've heard of Carl Rogers. But remember back to the first chapter we had in this class where I told you guys, hey, when it comes to humanist beliefs, humanist theory, is this idea that you're born good and you seek to strive some human potential you have called actualization, self-actualization, where you have no other needs. And what comes to motivation from the humanistic model or approach is that if you're born good and you're seeking to reach actualization, that is not your biology, it's not calories, and it's not the need for affiliation, as Carol Dweck would say, but rather it's this pyramid that we climb. Take a look at this. That what we do is, to reach our actualization, we have to climb this pyramid of needs, and they build on each other. So look at the very bottom. You got the basic needs, right? Food, water, sex, and then once you achieve those, the humanists would say, you can feel safety. And once you achieve safety, you can feel belonging. Once you achieve belonging, you can feel a sense of self-esteem. Once you achieve that, you can have a self-concept that, hey, I'm good. I feel good. I feel like I can understand. You have positive self-regard. Once you achieve that, you can start to appreciate the aesthetics, symmetry, the beauty. Once you achieve that, you have no other needs, and you have realized your own self-potential, or you have self-actualized. Think about this, guys, for a second. I often tell students this. I mean, where do you think the best psychologists work? Academia? Do they work in therapy settings? Do they work in business? Do they work in industry? Where do they work? Just throw it in the chat. What do you guys think? The best psychologists, the most phenomenal psychologists, where do you think they work? Let's hear it. I bet a lot of you, I think I know what a lot of you are going to say. Waiting. I'll come back here. What do you guys think? Where do you guys think the best psychologists work? Industry, they work in academia, they work in industry organizational settings, they work in therapeutic settings. A lot of people would probably argue they work in therapy settings. That would be my guess. But honestly, a lot of the best ones work in industry because they are able to change your mind about what you want and what you need. Think about that for a second, using this hierarchy. Marketing, advertising, sales. What do? They move you from the bottom of this pyramid, which is a need, to wants higher in the pyramid by tying these layers to the products they sell. So, for example, I'm watching a lot of TV right now, and I see a lot of advertisements for things to help during a pandemic. Why? They make people feel safe to buy them. A lot of those people don't need this toilet paper. Let's go there. Why are people buying toilet paper? It's not a physical need. It's not a physiological need that they have. Why are they buying it? Because they feel safe. They feel like they control something. They feel secure. And so they possess this stuff. They possess these materials, and it gives them this need, fulfill this need of, I have control over a very big situation that probably I don't have control over. And it makes them feel safe. So a lot of times advertisers are able to kind of use this They sell sex, for example, which is a basic physiological need, and they tie it to things like Axe body spray, or they tie it to colognes, or they tie it to clothing products. Instagram models are notorious for this. They tie sex and body image to product placement and product hashtag, White Claw. White Claw is a really good one. And the alcoholic beverage, really not relevant to you guys, your high schoolers, but a lot of Instagram models have been pushing this White Claw. And I've noticed over the last year, the product placement has been, and the market movement's been incredible because people are tying sex to that product. And so people feel like they want it, feel like they need it, when in actuality, they just only want it. Autonomy, competence, relatedness, all these are parts of the self-determination theory and tied to more humanistic approaches. If you want to motivate people, like me, for example, I very much buy into this approach. You have to give me autonomy to do my job. You have to assume I have competence to do my job, and my tasks have to be related, or I'm going to get really bored really fast and my motivation is going to go down. Remember earlier when I said to you guys, try to lean on intrinsic motivation? If you find yourself in a job that's almost, or career that's almost extrinsically motivated, you will lack, most likely, these three things. You may be getting paid, but you may be given very little autonomy. Your competence might not be challenged very much at all, and you might not find the tasks that you're doing day in, day out are related to your values. And then what happens? Your motivation goes south. Okay, when it comes to eating, I have a video I want you guys to watch over this, but I just want to touch on a few things about eating that the video doesn't. This data right here, this should scare the hell out of everyone watching this video right now. And this is dated. We're getting ready to I just filled out my 2020 census the other day. And so we're going to start to see some studies about the health of people in America at the 2020 marker. We're going to largely see this obesity epidemic. I mean, morbidly obese, not just obese, but morbidly obese, increase as 75, 77, 80%. That's just unbelievable. Eating disorders are a problem, and anorexia, bulimia, they're a big problem in psychology. But I'll tell you, a big problem we have right now too is obesity. And that is defined as your 20% of you being 20% larger than your body weight, your ideal body weight. And you can find that, right, based in BMI scales. Look at BMI scales. So, for example, I could do that now. I could let's look at, you want to throw Terry on the scale? Let's do that. Scale. Let's throw Terry on the BMI scale and see how I place. I'm 6 feet, 185 pounds. Well, let's take a look. I'm going to try to zoom in on this a little bit. 1 second. This particular article, saying that this Business Insider is saying that the BMI is bogus. I'm not so sure about that. View, zoom in. All right, let's see if we can find me here. Not sure if you guys can see this very well. Hopefully you can. So I'm 6 feet, so I'm on this row. And let's see. If I scroll over, my weight is 185 pounds. So I'm technically overweight, given this BMI scale, because I'm at a BMI 185. Actually, no, I'm not. 185 pounds. I'm at a 24. So I guess I'm on the last tick before being overweight, according to the scale. No. I got it. I was wrong. I am overweight. That was one row down. 6 feet, I would have a BMI 25. 25. So a lot of people would say, well, that's not reflective. You're not overweight, Terry. My body fat percentage is not the best. I think it's at 18%. I'd like for it to be around 15%. So I do have some weight to lose to get to an ideal body weight for me. But you can kind of look at this and track, is it a perfect indication? No, body fat percentage is probably the best indication, right? So for males, being at around 20% or below. For females, it's a little higher. So for females, so being around 28% or below be better for females. So yeah, BMI is a pretty good indicator, but we're having this pretty big spike in obesity. When it comes to eating, what parts of the brain are involved in eating, I would want you to know a few things for the test. And I'll kill my PowerPoint, and that's this. There are hormonal influences largely signaled by the hormone leptin. Leptin is this hormone that regulates, well, your satiety, how hungry, how satiated you are. And there's an image in your textbook that shows this. I'm not sure if you guys have seen this image, but this is really cool. This shows mice leptin. It shows two mice, one whose leptin levels have been augmented or changed. Here, obviously the mouse on the left, they've augmented the leptin levels. The mouse never feels satiety, never feel full. And so because the hormone's being manipulated, the mouse continues to eat and gain weight, becomes obese. So there are hormonal reasons for weight gain, leptin being one of the primary hormones. Insulin is also another hormone, glycogen and insulin, secreted by your pancreas to control levels of the three components of nutrition. How many fats, proteins, and carbohydrates are in your bloodstream at a given time. Knowing insulin regulates those levels, knowing that leptin signals the hypothalamus to say, hey, you're still hungry, would be very beneficial to you on your next exam. All right. What I'm going to do is end it there. I know there's still some components of emotion in the PowerPoint, but the video I'm going to show you, this is way better, does a better job than I could do in 5 minutes of showing you that, so make sure you take a look at that. Look over the sexuality PowerPoint this week. I may talk a bit about sexuality on tomorrow if I don't have a lot of questions in office hours. But I'm going to kind of wrap it up here, guys. Are there any last minute questions you guys have for me? Hopefully you have a good start to your week. Stick with it. Let me know if you're having problems. I'll get those papers graded soon. Otherwise, continue kind of looking over this content, reading the chapter. I'll wait for the last 3 minutes and see if you guys have any last minute questions for me before I end the stream. Not as active today. I appreciate some of the earlier activity. I wonder if I lost some of you later on in the lecture, like, oh, you're boring me, Terry. I can't stay with you. That might be the case. I'm going to have to liven it up a little bit the next time. All right, I'm going to assume silence means no questions. So keep plugging away. Keep working hard. Like I said, tomorrow during office hours, I might talk a little bit. It might be titled Sexuality / Office Hours. That would be weird. Lecture, Sexuality Lecture, Office Hours. That would be better. All right, guys. Well, you guys have a good day. Stay safe, stay healthy, take care of yourselves, stay home, socially distance, and we'll catch you again tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a good day.